Hello and welcome to a talk video about inflation and general how gold has evolved over the years in World of Warcraft. I have always had a big interest in gold farming, and that is kind of why I want to make this video now, addressing um, both concerns but also what you kind of notice if you're playing current World of Warcraft. While I'll be talking a bit about this, I'll be showing a bit of gameplay, doing some time walking. Architress is always a hard one to do. The scaling is definitely not the easiest in this one. If it's like Black Mirage, you're never even gonna see my health pretty much drop. But yeah, this Spyman is definitely one of the worst ones. But yeah, the first thing I want to talk a little about is how much gold did you actually make in Vanilla, Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King? I think that's an interesting point to make. And also, how long did it actually take, and what did I personally do for gold farming back then? So let's start with Vanilla. So in Vanilla, the main goal of gold farming was pretty much just getting your epic mount. So you would farm 800 gold, and when that was over, you would pretty much not bother with anything else but raid consumables. And if you were really high-end raider, like Insanity, maybe you were leading a guild doing Naxxramas and whatnot, you would maybe spend gold on helping your guilds buying something from a guild that was above your own progress. I know personally of guilds that were selling, really good loot for the highest bidder back in vanilla. It was not a very common thing at all, but it did happen. But besides the epic mount and that really, let's just say, rare example of people buying a really insane item, there was not much else to spend the gold on. Um, but actually we didn't need that either, cause the gold was pretty limited in vanilla, so you didn't really need all these what can you say, expensive items to spend it on, cause the gold overall was that hard to get that you wouldn't really bother with, say, buying a mount if you already had a mount. So that's another thing I also want to talk a little bit about more. But yeah, the main thing that I did for gold farming was actually something as weird as making BOEs in leatherworking. So I would go to Ongoro Crater as a resto druid and kill devil sours, those huge raptors. And since I had skinning and leatherworking, I could do my own skinning. Uh, and then hide these devil sour levers, which back then they were maybe going for like 5 gold a piece if you sold it on the auction house. But I would turn that leather into an item and then personally sell that leather to either I would sell it on the auction house or I would post it in the trade channel and say, want to sell devil sour gloves for 25 gold. That is pretty much my bread and butter back then. That's like all I could pretty much do. There were also another thing that I really enjoyed, especially since I was a healer, I could easily get the groups for it. Stratholm. So you would run the fireman in the chance of getting a Crusader's Orb, and Crusader's Orbs was selling as much as 50 gold on my server back then, which was a huge sum if you could get lucky and maybe get one Crusader's uh, Orb per run. It was probably not really gonna happen every time, but sometimes you get lucky with the rolls and you outroll your group members, which is always fun. So yeah, there was a lot of, you know, you were running with guild mates and you'll be like, oh my god, you won the orb, oh my god, so nice, grats. And yeah, we all pretty much only ran for that stupid orb, and it was just a fun casual thing to do. But yeah, that was pretty much my bread and butter in vanilla. So I got Epic Mount quite late. I didn't really have a lot of gold in vanilla. I think in total, if I have to guess, I made maybe like uh, 1,000, 1,500 gold in total in vanilla. So yeah, not even 2,000 gold I made. Another thing that was also really common, which I couldn't do since I was a resto druid, was farming Tyr's, what's it called, Tyr's Holm or something in Eastern Plague Land. So people, especially classes like, say, a rogue, who could stun the mobs, they would, oh, what a nasty pull here, have to focus a little bit. They would farm these really hard elite mobs for, say, average of maybe uh, 20 silvers per kill, and one mob would maybe take like a minute to kill, maybe half a minute if you had good gear. Say if you were a bow tier 2 geared, like full tier 2, you could probably kill a mob in like 20 seconds or something, maybe, which is still a long time for 20 silvers, obviously. But yeah, there's not much to say more about vanilla. It was pretty rough, but back then you also you didn't have a lot to spend on. If you didn't raid, what else would you spend your gold on besides trying to get the epic mount for 800 gold? There was just not a lot of things to do. You could always spend a lot of gold on leveling professions and gearing up your alts while leveling. That was actually a huge cost for me as well. Um, so I would spend a lot of gold on BOEs for making alt leveling easier. So I would maybe buy this helmet or this whatever thing, level 40 item in the auction house for say 20 gold, just to make my alt level 5 levels a bit faster, easier. It was pretty insane back then. I don't really liked that leveling was that hard back then, but that is some ways to make it easier if you could afford it. But yeah, I want to move on to Burning Crusade now. Burning Crusade, you were pretty much just flying with gold. It was a huge difference compared to, oh, now I'm nearly dying. The healer is not the best one, even though he does have a lot of achievement points like myself. Yeah, sometimes I like to value the group, how good we're gonna do, by the amount of achievement points each one has. Maybe you can't always say that, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, Burning Crusade. So I started Burning Crusade with like 500 gold. So on launch I didn't have more than 500 gold. Definitely, I probably only had like 200 if I remember correctly. So we were leveling to 70, right? And as soon as you heard the first people dinging, and they were saying, "Oh, how much gold did you earn by leveling? How much gold did you earn by leveling?" And they were saying, "Oh, I earned like 500 gold. Just loot everything, vendor everything." And I was like, "What? You earned 500 gold by leveling? What are you talking about?" But yeah, they were right. A steady character back then, leveling 60 to 70, could really earn a lot of gold. And that's where the inflation started. Burning Crusade started this insane gold inflation where you were gaining gold just by playing the game normally. In vanilla, you were really not gonna get any gold by playing the game. Oh, and now I forgot the patrols here. So I'm wiping my own group because I can't remember the instance. Yeah, a bit pathetic there. Oh well, we're making it. I think he got a combat res. But yeah, the inflation really just started in that expansion. Cause as soon as you started playing the game, you were actually making gold while playing it, which was a totally new thing. Cause in vanilla, unless you did something active for gold grinding, you were never really gonna get anything. So I want to talk a little bit about what I did now for gold grinding in vanilla. So back then I still had my leatherworking, and I was a huge leatherwork fan. I was getting all the recipes, getting all the little things you could do, maximizing leatherworking. And then I would also still have skinning. So I would go to Nagrand, and then I would do leather legs enchantments. So that was like 30 stamina and 10 agility or whatever they were. And I would sell those for as much as 50, 100 gold. Sometimes I would also sell the cleft hoof items, because they were really good for tanking classes like feral druids back then. Yeah, it was mostly just leg enchantments that I was selling, but then I would also sometimes do a bit of grinding. So I would go to Elemental Plateau, and then I would grind these Primal Spirits, Primal Fires, or whatever they were named. And I would sell those for as much as 10 gold. Some of the really good things was fishing, so you would fish for the primal water, cause you could fish in what was called pure water back then, and you could gain a lot of gold by fishing, which was a new thing, definitely. It was always nice to see that they did make some new things, and I really enjoyed that they introduced these materials here that were actually farmable and did quite a bit of gold compared to vanilla's materials, which was pretty hard to farm and didn't really sell for anything anyways. Oh, we missed one mob, funny. But yeah, so by the end of Burning Crusade, I had 20,000 gold. Obviously, I grinded a lot for it, but in total, I probably made like 30,000 gold in Burning Crusade in total. And it was just insane, you know, going from making less than 2,000 gold in a whole expansion pack to then going to make 20,000 gold. Having 20,000 gold on your inventory in your little gold up here in Titan panel back then, seeing you actually had first 5,000 gold so you could afford the epic flying, and then realizing, oh, 5,000 gold, that was nothing. So yeah, the inflation started hugely in Burning Crusade. Okay, we'll say you didn't really get any gold, you know, it's a lot of gold if you didn't do anything active for it in Burning Crusade. So you still had to work for it, you still had to have your professions, and you still had to know what you were doing. Back then, auction house playing were a thing. It also was that in vanilla, but it wasn't that commonly knowledge. But the people who were really good at auction house playing back then were earning a lot of gold, a lot of gold, a lot of gold. They were gold capping even back in Burning Crusade. Uh, Gold cap back then was 240k. So yeah, okay, it wasn't a lot of gold. It was maybe that much gold cap back then, but it was still pretty good. And yeah, so by the end of by the end of Burning Crusade, we were pretty damn rich. Those of us who knew how to use our professions and did a lot of grinding for it. Now I want to talk a bit about Wrath of Lich King. For me personally, Wrath of Lich King, that is where the fun started. I was dirt poor Wrath of Lich King. I still had only like 20,000 gold, 15,000 gold. That was because Wrath of Lich King started a trend where you needed a lot of gold to buy these not really needed items and BOEs and all those fine kinds of nice things you want for your characters. And that is kind of where the inflation fight started, where Blizzard were trying to add things to the game to stop inflation. Um, Good example of that was the Tundra's mount, which was a mount that was really awesome to get, but it costed like 15,000 gold, and that took a lot of time to grind. But most of us did get it eventually. Back then I still also grinded, grinded levers, I grinded dailies. So yeah, dailies was a thing. You did dailies every day in Wrath of Lich King for gold. That was totally normal that people would only do dailies just for gold alone. Try to earn like 100 gold doing a set of dailies. That was, the norm. Um, but yeah, by the end of Wrath of Lich King, I got tired of normal grinding. I was seeing a lot of YouTube guides. I was getting better at the game. I was getting having, what can you say, more expensive taste for different things in the game. So I wanted to know how to auction house play, because I knew that a lot of people on my server were gold capping with auction house playing, but I had no idea how to start. But that is when I started leveling alts. I started leveling professions, inscription, enchanting, jewel crafting. So I actually removed skinning on my druid and then got jewel crafting on my druid. I started maximizing profession on alts later on and stuff like that. And by the end of Wrath of Lich King, I also nearly hit gold cap. I think they changed the gold cap to 1 million in Wrath of Lich King. I'm not quite sure, but By the end of Wrath of Lich King, I had 250,000 gold, and in total like 300,000 gold made in the expansion. And that was just because I started auction house playing, and that's a long time. We're not gonna go into talk how I did it, but basically, use professions, sell things. It was pretty much shuffling ores and selling gems and enchantments that I made gold on. Um, so the last boss now, always like the last boss. Now you can see him, Milhouse the Mana Storm again. Okay, we didn't wipe any times, but I did get close to dying a few times. But overall, a pretty smooth run. But yeah, by the end of Wrath of Lich King, I was at like 300,000 gold, and I had plenty of gold. And Cataclysm didn't really introduce anything really expensive to buy. There were still some new things added to the game that you did want to spend. But back then I was a pretty active raider in Cataclysm, so I started spending a lot of gold on PoEs. So every tier I would maybe spend like 100,000 gold on raiding alone, which made me have to do gold playing again on the auction house, but I was still only getting to as much as maybe 400,000 to 500k gold. So the inflation from vanilla uh, to Burning Crusade, that was insane. A lot of people didn't have even epic mount, but then they were gonna get epic mount in Burning Crusade easily. But the inflation from Wrath of Lich King to Cataclysm wasn't that big. A lot of people were still not getting a million gold in Cataclysm. They were maybe getting half a million gold where they would get 200,000 gold in Wrath of Lich King. And yeah, it was kind of stalled. And the same thing was the same for Mr. Pandaria. A lot of people were gold capping in Mr. Pandaria, but it still wasn't that extreme a thing. It was mostly just, learning the markets, learning the auction house, playing, and then there was a new thing. People were starting to sell boosts, so a lot of good players were selling boosts like challenge modes and whatnot. That became a thing where a lot of people were making gold on that. But yeah, I still think that Cataclysm and what's it, Mr. Pandaria didn't increase the inflation that much. But then fast forward now to Ravel Warlords and Renner, I have half a million gold. I'm not really making any gold anymore in the auction house playing. I think I I pretty much just gave up in Mr. Pandaria because I wasn't really making that much gold. Anyways, it wasn't a huge deal. It was just enough to buy the things I did want, and that was pretty much it. I was not gonna get, a million gold if I didn't stop spending and spending a lot of time on auction house as well on this at the same time without spending any gold, which sucks. But yeah, then round wallets at Renner, and as you can see up here, I have 2 million gold now. And honestly, I do maybe a day. I spend maybe an hour's work on gold farming, maybe 2 hours on the days I really need to do a lot of work for it. But it's such brainless works. It's so easy work. It's just there's just nothing to it. Everyone can do what I do. I have made guides before about this. Feel to check those out. Not gonna go into how you make golden walls as Rainer because it's just so easy. I mostly still use the auction house, but it's all tied to the garrison. And then I also still flip items with the professions that I make some transmog items and consumables and whatnot. But overall, it's pretty easy. And let's see if they actually use heroism this time. They keep forgetting about that. Thank God they did use heroism now. But yeah, Wallace and Rayner increased the inflation to an absurd amount. But I also want to talk a little about what did Wallace and Rayner actually do to combat the inflation compared to, say, Cataclysm or Lich King or Mr. Pandaria. I believe that Wallace and Rayner didn't really introduce anything that cost a lot. Okay, so we have these 100k mounts or 50k mounts when we want to buy, but those were introduced in early expansions as well. So you can't really say that we got anything new to spend our gold in Warlords and Renner. It was mostly just mounts, and then we were able to what's it called? Then we were able to buy bonus rolls for gold, and stuff like that. But the most thing that people are really spending gold on are boosts. So I have probably spent like mm, half a million gold by now on buying boost. 250,000 gold for a challenge mode boost, which was only 90k back in Mr. Pandaria for me personally on my half dead server. And that just goes to show that I really want to make a point here. Challenge mode in Wanted Arena on normal servers are at least 200,000 gold now. In Mist and Pandaria you can get a challenge mode boost for as little as maybe 75k gold. The inflation just increased so much that even boost nowadays for the same product are much more expensive. But yeah, I think with the run over, I kind of just want to talk a little quickly about that. I don't think that gold inflation is normally a problem if we get things to spend it on. Because if the gold is never taken out of the system, there's the potential for problems for new players that can never catch up, and you're gonna get punished if you didn't play Warlords at Renner. So say if you have never played Warlords at Renner, but you returned for Legion to play, you're gonna be way behind in gold because you didn't play Warlords at Renner, which increased the inflation a lot. One of the things I would do to really decrease inflation is to have no limits on bids on the black market auction house. So right now people are gold capping pretty much anything decent on the black market auction house. If there was no limit to how much you could bid, that would be a start. But yeah, before the video gets too long, I think I want to end this. I hope you found this little talk useful, and I would love to know about your thoughts about gold and whatnot in the comments. I have made other gold guides before. Feel free to watch those if you want to. So yeah, have a nice day and goodbye.